Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Stress Less, Accomplish More call. My name is Stephanie Matos. I'm a mindset coach on the Brightly Thrive team. And this call is all about helping you have tips and tools and strategies, and really just to chat about some of the things that happen in our daily lives that cause us stress. I think that we all can agree that in this day and age, it's just a stressful time. It's a stressful time of existence as a human on this planet. And so I think that the more we can chat about this topic, the more that we can just kind of open up the conversation in safe spaces like this one, the easier it becomes for all of us to be able to accomplish all the things that we have on our plates while also doing it with as least and little as stress and pain as possible. I don't know if that sounds good to you. Definitely sounds good to me. So I was actually chatting with Charlotte a little bit about this before Sean popped on. Is that I primarily talk about stress management techniques and things like that. One of the things that popped up to me in other conversations that I had today. So I host a couple different calls during the week, and one of the things that popped up for me in a different conversation at a different clientele, it was an entrepreneurial group, was this idea of imposter syndrome. And I started to think about this when it comes to stress, because imposter syndrome sometimes it generally pops up in business settings, or like when you are going to try to do something different or something like that, right? However, what's really interesting is that on the last call that we had, so that was Thursday's call, we talked a lot about black and white thinking and how black and white thinking can be quite stressful. And I know many of you guys that are on this team work actually with students. I know many of you all don't work with students, but some of you who do work with students, a way to look at black and white thinking is a growth mindset or a fixed mindset, where I am just horrible at math. That would be a very fixed statement to say for a student. Or, you know what, math doesn't come easily to me, but I can learn. The more that I study, the easier it becomes. I know it. So it's not fixed. It's not like this is a personality trait that I have, that I am like this. And I will never be better at math because I don't believe that I can be better at math. Therefore, I will never try to be better at math. And then guess what? It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, because then next time they take a math exam and they didn't study for it because they don't think they're good at it, it shows them the data that they were indeed right, that they're not good at math, but really it's based on that fixed or black and white way of thinking. And so when we were talking about this last week, it's when we think in black and white, people are either all good or all bad. A situation is all good or all bad. We can sometimes be all good or all bad. And I think maybe some of you either watching the replay, which if you're watching the replay, I just want to say welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. And for those of you who are here with me live, and I'll use myself as an example, because I certainly have been this way before I did a lot of work on my mindset. And the way that I think is I would wake up and expect the day to be bad. So I would get into this vicious cycle of, here we go again, another stressful day or another bad day or another, oh no, this person's hosting a meeting and now I know that it's going to be this or whatever. I started to have this expectation that things were going to be bad. And what's so interesting about this, and I'll loop this back to imposter syndrome in a bit, in a minute. However, what's so interesting about this idea of expectations is that there's a lot of research that shows that when we have an expectation of something, it's more likely to happen. And this is either good or bad. So if I expect my day to be bad, it's more likely to be bad. If I expect my day to be great, it's more likely to be great. If I expect my work day to be extremely stressful, it's more likely to be extremely stressful. And if I expect it to be a little bit easier of a day, it tends to be a little bit easier. And so that's with success or failure or whatever it is, right? And that also comes into play with that black and white mindset or fixed mindset that we were just talking about. Because let's use a student as an example. If they have an expectation that they're bad at math or science or reading, then what happens is that individual, there's a block on how much effort they will put in to change things because they believe that it's fixed that way, right? And if I have a negative mindset around when I first wake up in the morning, and again, I will speak for myself, I definitely did this on a daily basis, where I didn't realize that I was actually setting my filter system in my brain up to be geared towards the negative. So basically what happens is that if I have an expectation that the day is going to be bad or that it's going to be another stressful day or whatever, and this is based on data that I have collected over many, many weeks and months and years and decades, right? Okay, so it's not that you guys are making this up, right? This is actually something that your brain is like, well, the day before and the day before that was, and the day before that was, so why wouldn't this be, right? However, what happens is that we get skewed in our way of thinking. So our actual perception of reality becomes skewed and geared towards the negative. So even though there might be positive things occurring and things like that, what will happen is that our brain stays geared towards the negative things that are happening and how bad things are and the traffic jams and the da da da, da like all it's like collecting evidence that you're correct. So our brain really always wants us to be right. It doesn't have the capacity to go, are you sure about that? If you give it the information that today's going to be a bad day, what will happen is that it goes, okay, interlocking all the systems that today's going to be a bad day. So now what we're going to see is all the bad things. And you might perceive somebody's email a little bit more negative than maybe it was intended, or a text message or whatever, right? These kind of things. But that's because we're creating it in our mind as a baseline of what we woke up with or what we have intended or set our intention, or the black and white thinking of it all, if you want to look at it like that. Does anybody have any questions? I know I'm like, I'm trying to talk fast because we were short on time today. So I'm like trying to get it out because we have like 12 more minutes. Does this all make sense, you guys? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Epic. Thank you guys. And then, you know, there's a little reactions button. So you guys can either go like this or do the little, you don't ever have to. I mean, I like it when you unmute. So please feel free to unmute as much as you want. I like to have this be a conversation rather than like a monologue for me the whole time. Although I'm prepared for it. I can talk, but I love to hear from you guys. Okay. So when I was thinking about this whole thing that I just set up here about the black and white thinking, or the growth mindset and the fixed mindset, and also this comes into play with also optimists versus pessimists. And I think that we can all agree that optimistic thinkers, or, you know, maybe if you yourself are an optimist, or if you know a lot of optimists, I personally used to be a extremely bad pessimist, because I was a very negative thinker. And so positive thinking does not go hand in hand with pessimistic thinking, and vice versa as well. So a lot of times these people who are thinking and seeing the silver lining around every cloud is kind of a hallmark of an optimistic thinker. They have the tendency to have less stress, right? An optimistic thinker might think, just because I did bad on this math test doesn't mean I might not do well on the next one, right? A more pessimistic thinker is more black and white and more fixed, where they're like, of course I did bad, and you know I'm just going to do bad again, and you know that it's going to be like that again, right? So if we want to look at it as black and white thinking, all good or all bad, pessimistic thinking or optimistic thinking is more of a positive mindset or a negative mindset. Or if we want to look at it more kind of, this is really used a lot in students, is this growth mindset and this fixed mindset. They're all kind of showing that the more fixated we are on any type of way of being, whether that's from somebody else, an experience, through our work, through our families, through whatever it is, we have a tendency to feel more stress. Okay, that's the bottom line of it. And so as I was thinking about this idea of imposter syndrome, right? So imposter syndrome, if we could kind of put it in a nutshell, it's thinking, who am I to do that? Or how could I ever expect myself to do something like that? Or if I'll talk. I'm using myself as an example just because I give myself permission to do that. But if you have any examples you want to throw in, please feel free to do that. However, you know, many, many years ago, if somebody would have said, "Hey, would you like to host a call?" I would have thought, "There's no way I can do that. I don't know how to do that. I've never done that before." Right? All the imposter syndrome of it all would have kicked in big time, because I was a very negative thought. I had very negative thought processes about myself back then, like 10, 12, 15 years ago, certainly. However, as you can see right now, I'm clearly doing it, right? So that thought that I would have had 10 years ago, was that really real? Well, was it real or was it not? I mean, I guess it's the perception is the truth, right? Because guess what? I would have said no to this opportunity if it would have been then, because I would have believed so much that it was true, right? And now I say yes to opportunities like this because I know and believe in myself enough to know that I can handle situations such as this, and I can speak and I can talk about things, and I can talk about the science of these things and all of that kind of stuff. However, am I the same person? Well, here I'm not the same, but am I the same individual with the same expertise? Yes. I probably had more expertise then because I was a researcher, but I felt very safe hiding because I had a strong imposter syndrome of being able to accomplish and do bigger things and scary things like speaking live on camera to people that I don't really know very well, but I'm excited to get to know. Um, so when it comes to stress, I think sometimes we have to give ourselves the permission to be a different way, to think a different way, to act in a different way, to maybe start to give people the benefit of the doubt or situations the benefit of the doubt, right? So let me give you an example. Um, when I was very stuck in a negative mindset, I used to find emails extremely stressful. So as soon as I would sit down at my desk and open up my laptop or switch the computer on or whatever it was, even just the sound like bleeding, computers make a sound when they power up or whatever, it was like right. Well, I accidentally installed the identity that I would always be that way, right? And if I ever questioned that identity, I would fall into a little bit of imposter syndrome. Like, who are you to think that you can handle things well? Who are you to think that you can handle email well? Who are you to think that you could lead a meeting? Who are you to think that you can drive home peacefully from work, switch off work to home? Who are you to think that you could be a calm version of yourself at home after you had this stressful day at work? Right, we talked a little bit about this last week, was this importance of switching off or putting on a different hat, so to speak, from work to home so that you accidentally don't bring the stress from work to home. This is something that we can talk about, maybe not today because we don't have enough time. However, or it's not that we don't have enough time, it's just a little bit of a more broad topic. We talked about it last week. We can talk about it time and time again because I think it's an important one, right? However, where I think the question is, where in our lives are we maybe having some imposter syndrome about who we can be, how we can handle situations, how we can start to elicit relaxation response in our body utilizing breath, right? And when I say breath, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It's literally just breathe, right? So it's just maybe before you open your email, maybe as soon as you wake up, take a couple deep breaths in and go, am I accidentally planning on this day being stressful? Am I accidentally expecting there to be 20 million emails that are stressful? Or am I expecting myself not to be able to handle these emails with grace and ease and flow? Am I accidentally not allowing am I accidentally in a fixed mindset? Because I would say that imposter syndrome also comes with a bit of a fixed mindset. So me 10 years ago, being if you would have told me then that I was doing this as a job multiple times a week, I would have said that you were absolutely crazy. I would not have believed it or fathomed it, right? But that's because I was so fixed on how bad I was at everything. Right? You know what I mean? Like talk about fixed mindset, was very fixed on the negative, not on the positive. And so where in our lives can we start to develop a different personality for ourselves, or maybe a different identity or a different thought process that maybe you can handle things a little bit better than you thought, or maybe we're making things mean more than they should, or maybe there's a few places in life when somebody says something mean to you that you can just take it with a grain of salt because maybe they're having a bad day. Okay. So a lot of times when people are being mean to us or unkind or a little bit snippy or snappy, it's really a reflection on themselves and where they are from a mindset perspective and all of that kind of stuff. And sometimes we can actually meet people with a little bit of empathy, right? Rather than taking it so personally. Uh, now that takes some practice. That takes some practice. But in the next 5 minutes, I would love to hear kind of what do you guys think about this concept or this idea? Is there anywhere in your life that maybe you're having a little bit of a fixed mindset when it comes to stress management or the stress of it all? Is there a little bit of imposter syndrome on how we might be able to handle our lives a little bit better with a little bit more ease and flow? I'd love to hear if there's anything that you want to share. And you can either type it or unmute.
I think I kind of live there, unfortunately, in my depression. Every time it flares up, um, it's difficult to get out of it once you're in it. um,
Yeah.
so I definitely know that I experience it on the daily, but just the act of waking up in the morning trying to do something positive. Um, I don't think I've ever tried to do that. So I think I am going to, whether it's meditating or writing in my journal or something, just something to maybe stave off that, that initial mindset of everything's going to fall apart today.
I love that. Thank you so much for your honesty and for feeling safe to talk about these things, because here's the interesting thing to Charlotte is that when we say things out loud, they lose their charge. When we keep things inside, they fester and grow, just like a pot with, a lid on it that's boiling, it explodes. But once you take the lid off, it dissipates, right? And so I'm really proud of you for speaking your truth. And I would say there is so much science and research about the power of intention setting. So something really simple that you could do now, meditation, journaling, all the stuff that you said. Oh my gosh, like check, check, check. Yes, those are all great things. Now, let's say you wake up late one day and you don't have time to meditate or journal or whatever. One thing that we can always do is say, today I want to set the powerful intention that I'm going to look for the positives in my life. I'm going to show gratitude when I see them. So I want to be more open to all the awesome things that are happening around me, and be a little bit less open to all the negative things. I will say this. So our brains are actually they have 5 times more negativity receptors than they do positive ones. Like when you do brain imagery scans and things, we have a heightened response to negative things. So when people are mean to us, yell at us, if God forbid somebody's chasing you, like all of that kind of stuff lights up the brain way more than when somebody's kind to you, says thank you, gives you a present, things like that. Now, not that that's not nice and we don't enjoy it. It just doesn't have the same huge charge in the brain as positive or as negative things do. And so what we want to do is actually, and so what she said is that, it can be challenging to get out of that way of thinking. Trust me, I understand. I lived there for many, many years. And what is interesting about this, you guys, is that a lot of this is habitual patterns of behavior. And when I say habit, I don't mean like just break the habit. That's not what I mean. I mean it actually gets installed in the neurology. And it's almost like, let's say I have 2 arms, but I've been lifting a 50-pound weight on this arm for the last 10 years, and this one's been in a sling. Okay. So this one's going to be a scrawny, skinny little arm, and this one's going to be like an Arnold Schwarzenegger arm. And this is what happens when we have an overwhelmingly amount of stress or anxiety or depression or just negative things happening or whatever, is that this gets very big, thick, and strong. So our input, and then this one is here. So the happy, the it feels good. You never said you've never felt that. You said it just, this one's a little bit stronger, right? So this one doesn't tend to take over. So if I'm in a tug of war, right, with this is the Arnold Schwarzenegger arm and this is the atrophied arm, right? Who's going to win in a tug of war? Well, this one is, right? This one is all day long, all the time. And that's one of the reasons why this becomes challenging when we get tipped in the opposite direction. So what we're doing with this is that we're consciously pumping this one. So this one's already big, thick, and strong. We don't have to think about that. It pretty much takes over like the second something bad happens, or the second, even somebody looks at you weird, or, you know what I mean? Like it could not even be real. It could be perceived. They might even be looking at somebody like past you, but you're like, oh my gosh. So this is the thing. It doesn't even have to be real. But when we start to engage the other neurology, so the neurology is very much like a muscle. The more you pump it, the bigger, thicker, stronger it becomes. And this is why I use that kind of arm analogy. So if I wake up and say, I want to be aware of all the good things that happen in my life. So whether it's the cup of coffee or the tea or the, whatever it is that you may drink in the morning, or maybe you're in a traffic jam, but you see like an animal or a bird fly by, right? So these are the little things that we're focused upon so that we're not so focused on that. And then this gets pumped, right? And then what will happen is that this one wins every once in a while. This one wins every once in a while. And this one's starting to get weaker. And then all of a sudden, this one wins more than this one. And then all of a sudden, this is your operating system. This is what you do on a daily basis. However, you heard me say consciously, right? So when you have a habitual pattern of behavior, which again, it's neurology and hormones and peptides and all kinds of stuff, that becomes like a super highway in the subconscious programming. And the subconscious programming runs 95% of what you do every single day. I'm running over. If you guys can stay over, I can stay for a couple more minutes. If you guys need to go, it's okay if you guys gotta go. So when we have a subconscious programming that is geared towards a more negative thought process, which by the way, if that is you, you're in great company. I would say most people have this. Okay, what happens is that then we have to use the conscious mind. So the subconscious mind is the one that it's like, you know what to do at a stoplight without having to think about it. Like, it's not like you're like, oh no, can you guys remind me what's red again? Like, or, oh my gosh, you guys, what does green mean? Like, no, you just know it because it's so ingrained as a pattern. You just know. It's just like if I were in front of you and I went like this without saying anything, you'd immediately grab my hand, because that's, you don't have to go, wait, what is she reaching out to me like that for? What is she doing? Like, you already know, right? But then there's a part of you that, like, for example, Charlotte, she came on and I was like, hey, what would you like to cover today? She's like, I don't really know what this is, right? Your conscious mind is the one that brought you here. So it wasn't like you just automatically, you went, oh my goodness, I clicked and I just showed up here. No, you had to actually go, okay, at this time, I'm going to click on this link and then I'm going to go to that thing, right? And so this is exactly what we have to do with our brain, is that we have to tell it what to do, but over and over and over again. So and what happens is that these negative feelings of stress and anxiety or overwhelm or imposter syndrome, like what we're talking about, or who am I to do this or whatever, they start to go down like a dimmer switch. So it's not like an on off switch. And I think sometimes we're looking for an on off switch. And don't get me wrong, you can have some pretty instant results with deep breathing, meditation, coming to these calls, talking to the right people. The right people. There's some people who make you feel worse. You got to be careful with that. Choose the right people, right? However, it's not instantaneous in the neurology. The neurology takes time to build and time to build. And so just be gentle with yourself, be kind with yourself, stick with it, keep going. It's kind of like, I can't do crunches once and expect to have abs. I wish. Okay. I got to go to the gym consistently to get that six pack, right? And that's how it is with our neurology too. Do you guys have anything to add to this conversation? Any questions for me before we wrap up? And Charlotte, I really commend you. So, first of all, for speaking your truth, thank you so much. And also, take on this new identity of someone who starts their day off with a positive statement or a positive intention for the day. And I have a feeling if you just stick with this for a couple weeks, I have a feeling that this is going to be a huge game changer for you. It certainly was for me, and it's super easy. Now, if you add in the other things that you said, like journaling and meditation and breathing and all of that kind of stuff, oh yeah, you're going to be golden for sure. And I would love to see you again. So both you and Sean, I would love to see you guys again on a call. I host them every single Monday and Thursday, and then again on an evening on a Wednesday. So if you guys ever want to join me, then I do that every third Wednesday. It might even be this Wednesday that I'm doing it. Got to check my schedule. Anyways, you guys, thank you so much. Sean, did you want to add something?
No, thank you for your time, Stephanie. I appreciate it.
You got it. You got it, you guys. Okay, until we meet again, I want to wish you so much love, so many blessings, so much health, healing, and success to you. And hopefully I'll see you very soon. All right, bye everybody. Bye.